She said, "You're too jealous." Then her best friend sent me screenshots. It started like a whisper in the background of our relationship. Something small, something easy to ignore. She would smile at her phone, thumbs moving quickly, the kind of quick that only happens when you are excited about what you're reading. The glow of the screen lit up her face at night, and sometimes I would ask, just casually, who she was talking to. She would glance at me, exhale like she was exhausted, and say the same thing every time. "You're too jealous." Those 3 words became her weapon and my cage. Every time she said them, I backed down. She knew how to make me feel guilty for even noticing. I used to think she was different from anyone I had ever dated. She was ambitious, warm, and so full of life that being around her felt like sunlight. But slowly, the warmth started to burn. She began to spend more time out with her friends, staying late after work, missing dinners we used to plan together. When she did come home, her excuses were sharp and practiced. "You wouldn't understand. It's just work stuff. You're imagining things." The first real argument happened on a Friday night. I was setting the table for the meal we had promised to share after a long week. She texted an hour before, saying she would be home soon. 2 hours later, still nothing. When she finally walked through the door, her hair was styled differently, her perfume stronger, and there was a faint smudge of lipstick that wasn't hers on her sleeve. I asked where she had been. She rolled her eyes, saying I was being controlling. "You're too jealous," she said again, throwing her bag onto the couch like the conversation was over before it began. Something in me broke that night. I didn't yell. I didn't demand answers. I just sat there, staring at the plate of food that had gone cold. She walked past me and went straight to the shower, humming to herself. The sound was almost cruel. That was when I realized she didn't fear losing me because she believed I would never leave. In the following weeks, her habits became unpredictable. One day she would be affectionate, the next she would be distant. She would text me from work saying she missed me, then ignore my calls the same evening. When I tried to explain how that made me feel, she twisted it into something ugly. She said I was insecure, paranoid, that I needed to work on myself. I started to wonder if she was right. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe love really did require blind trust. One night we went out to dinner with some of her friends. She spent most of the evening on her phone, laughing at private messages she refused to show me. When I asked what was so funny, she leaned in close and whispered that I should learn to relax. Her best friend, sitting across the table, looked uncomfortable. I noticed it, but I didn't say anything. I was too busy pretending to be fine. When we got home that night, she was colder than usual. She went straight to bed without saying goodnight. I lay awake for hours, replaying every small change, every missing detail, every new excuse. I remembered how she used to send me photos during lunch, how she used to call just to hear my voice. Now I was lucky to get a text before midnight. The next morning, I found her standing by the window, her phone in her hand and a faint smile on her face. When she noticed me watching, she quickly put it away. I asked if everything was okay. She said it was fine, but her tone was sharp, defensive. "You're too jealous," she said again, and this time it felt rehearsed, like she had been waiting for me to ask. That day, I stopped asking. I started observing instead. I noticed the way she changed her lock screen every few days, how she always turned her phone face down when she placed it on the table. I noticed that her best friend stopped coming over, and when I asked about her, she brushed it off with a shrug. I started to see that jealousy wasn't the problem. The problem was how she used that word to hide behind lies. Still, I wanted to believe her. Love makes you stupid in the kindest ways. It makes you protect the person who's hurting you because losing them feels worse than the truth. I kept convincing myself that every late night, every whispered call, every strange smile was harmless. But deep down, I knew better. The day everything began to shift, she looked at me with an odd calmness, like she was preparing for something. She kissed me on the cheek before leaving for work and said I needed to stop being so suspicious. Her perfume lingered in the air long after she left. I sat there, staring at the door, feeling that familiar ache in my chest. It wasn't jealousy. It was instinct. Something inside me knew that when someone repeats the same excuse too many times, it's because the truth is too heavy to carry. I didn't know it yet, but the truth was already on its way to find me. It would come from the one person I least expected, her best friend. She started saying she needed space. It began with casual comments like wanting time with the girls or needing to clear her head after work. I didn't question it at first. Everyone deserves freedom. But freedom slowly turned into distance. She stopped sending goodnight texts, stopped asking about my day, and replaced our movie nights with plans I was never invited to. I tried to be understanding, convincing myself that maybe she just needed a break from routine. I didn't want to become the jealous boyfriend she accused me of being. Still, something inside me felt uneasy. Her laughter changed. It wasn't the same loud, carefree laugh that used to fill the room. It was softer, almost nervous, the kind of laugh you give when someone says something you shouldn't be smiling about. I noticed she started keeping her phone close, never leaving it on the table, always face down when she wasn't using it. The notifications came more often, and when they did, her eyes lit up in a way they didn't when she looked at me. One night, She said her coworkers were having a small get-together. I offered to drop her off. She refused, said it was just for the girls and I would feel out of place. I watched her leave in a dress I had never seen before, something she said she bought weeks ago but had never worn. That night, I stayed up late, scrolling through my phone, pretending not to notice how late it was getting. When she finally came home, it was past 2 a.m. She smelled of strong perfume and smoke, like she had been around people who didn't want to be remembered. She kissed my cheek lightly and went straight to the bathroom. I heard the shower running for almost an hour. The next few days were filled with half-explanations. Her tone became defensive whenever I asked where she was going. I tried to sound calm, but she could always sense suspicion in my voice. "You're too jealous," she said again, her favorite phrase, the one that made me question my sanity. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was reading too much into things. But then the pattern continued. More nights out, more excuses, more distance. Then came the weekend trip. She said it was her cousin's birthday in another city. I smiled and told her to have fun. Inside, my heart was already racing. I asked if she wanted me to drive her there. She laughed and said it was a girl's thing, that she'd be back Sunday night. I nodded, pretending everything was fine, but the moment she left, the apartment felt colder. 2 days passed with no posts, no photos, no messages. Even her WhatsApp status stayed the same. I tried calling once on Saturday evening, but she didn't answer. Later, she texted, saying she was busy helping her cousin set up decorations. I didn't reply. When she returned Sunday night, she acted different. She hugged me longer than usual, smiled more, complimented me out of nowhere. Her energy felt forced, like she was trying to cover something up. I watched her closely while she talked about the trip, but her stories didn't line up. The details shifted each time she spoke. I noticed a faint tan line around her neck, like she had worn a necklace she wasn't wearing now. That night she fell asleep early, her phone charging beside the bed. Around 2 a.m., it buzzed softly on the nightstand. The sound froze me. I stared at it for a long time, heart pounding. I didn't pick it up. I wanted to. I wanted to see who it was, but I also knew that if I did, there would be no turning back. The truth once seen cannot be unseen. So I just watched the light fade and listened to her breathing beside me, steady and peaceful, as if she hadn't just built a wall of secrets between us. The next morning she acted like everything was normal. She made breakfast, humming quietly, wearing my shirt like she used to in the early days. It almost made me forget. But when her phone buzzed again, she jumped. It wasn't guilt I saw on her face. It was fear. She quickly turned the screen away and forced a smile, asking me about my plans for the day. From that moment, I stopped pretending. I began paying attention. I started noticing names in her notifications, small details in her stories, and gaps in her schedule that didn't make sense. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to be sure. I told myself that maybe she really was innocent, that I was reading too deep into shadows. But deep down, something inside me was shifting. It wasn't jealousy anymore. It was awareness. The kind that wakes you up at night with a quiet certainty that something you love is slipping away. She thought I was blind, that her excuses would keep me in place. But she forgot one thing. When someone starts hiding their life from you, it's only a matter of time before someone else reveals it. 2 days after she came back from that strange weekend trip, I was sitting in the living room scrolling through my phone when a message popped up from an unknown number. I almost ignored it until I saw the name attached to the contact photo. It was her best friend. We had spoken only in passing before, exchanged polite greetings, nothing more. My chest tightened as I opened it. The first line hit me harder than any argument ever had. "I can't watch her do this to you anymore." I froze. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. My thumbs hovered over the screen as I typed a shaky reply asking what she meant. No answer came right away. Then, one by one, the screenshots started coming in. Each image felt like a punch straight to the heart. There they were, my girlfriend and another man, messaging like lovers who had known each other for years. It wasn't just flirting. They had entire conversations about weekends spent together, private jokes that made no sense to me, hotel bookings under fake names, voice notes full of affection, and pictures I couldn't unsee. The first photo was the one that broke me. She was wearing the same blue dress she claimed she wore to her cousin's birthday. The background wasn't a family gathering or a restaurant. It was a hotel room. The second image showed them holding hands in a mirror selfie. The timestamp matched the night she didn't answer my calls. I felt my stomach turn, and my fingers trembled so badly that I nearly dropped my phone. Every excuse she had given me suddenly replayed in my mind, this time stripped of its innocence. The late-night meetings, the new perfume, the laughter when she read messages. All of it had been clues I chose to ignore. "You're too jealous." The phrase that once made me doubt myself now sounded like a taunt. She had used my trust as her cover. Each screenshot was proof of how easily she had turned my love into blindness. Her best friend sent one last message after the screenshots. She said she had warned her to stop, told her she was risking everything for a thrill. But she just laughed. According to her, my girlfriend had said I was too naive to ever find out. He'll never find out. Those words burned more than the pictures. I sat there in silence, my phone lighting up with evidence of the person I thought I knew best. The hours that followed felt endless. I scrolled through every screenshot again, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to understand how long this had been happening. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was months of deception carefully disguised as love. Every message was a different version of her, one I had never met. There was no apology in her words, only thrill, secrets, and bold confidence that I would never catch on. At some point, my reflection appeared faintly in the dark screen of my phone, and I didn't recognize myself. My eyes looked hollow, my jaw clenched tight, my heart heavier than I thought it could ever be. I sat there until the sun began to rise, the light creeping into the room like a reminder that even the darkest nights eventually end. But mine didn't. When the last screenshot arrived, her best friend added one final message. She said she couldn't stand by anymore, that watching me stay loyal while being lied to made her feel complicit. She apologized for not telling me sooner. I didn't respond. What could I even say? Thank you for showing me my worst nightmare? By morning, I was still in the same spot, the same clothes, the same disbelief. I stared at her contact photo, the smiling face I used to call home. My heart wanted to hate her, but my mind was stuck between denial and rage. Love has a strange way of softening even betrayal. For a moment, I almost convinced myself that there had to be an explanation. Maybe the screenshots were old, maybe the context was wrong, maybe this was some kind of mistake. But then I remembered the night she came home from that trip, the sudden affection, the nervous laughter, the way she jumped when her phone buzzed. It all connected like pieces of a cruel puzzle. The truth had been right there, waiting to be seen, but love had blinded me. When she woke up that morning, she found me already dressed, sitting quietly on the couch. She smiled and asked why I was up so early. I looked at her for a long time, trying to see if guilt showed on her face. It didn't. She kissed my forehead and went to make coffee, humming the same tune she always did after coming home from her so-called trips. I didn't say a word. Not yet. I knew then that my world hadn't just cracked. It had shattered completely. And once something breaks that deeply, there's no fixing it. Only truth left to face, and I had all the proof I needed sitting right there in my phone. The night before the confrontation, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the screenshots replaying in my mind like scenes from a movie I never agreed to watch. Her smile beside him, her words written with the same tenderness she once used with me, the way she said he'll never find out. My chest felt tight, but there was no anger left, just clarity. The kind that comes when pain runs out of space and turns into calm. When morning came, I got up early and made coffee. I moved slowly, deliberately, as if following a ritual. The air felt heavy, silent, yet peaceful. It was strange how normal everything looked. The same kitchen, the same scent of roasted beans, the same cup she always used. I poured hers anyway, out of habit more than kindness. I wanted the truth to meet her in the same place she had built her lies. She walked in half asleep, wearing one of my shirts like she always did on weekends. Her hair was messy, her voice soft as she greeted me. I looked at her and saw not the woman I had loved, but the stranger she had become. I waited until she took her first sip before I spoke. You were right. She frowned, confused. Right about what? I met her eyes and said it slowly, so she would hear every word. I was too jealous. I should have trusted my gut more. Then I placed her phone on the table, screen unlocked, open to the screenshots her best friend had sent me. The photos, the messages, all of it. Her face lost color instantly. She froze, staring at the screen like it was a weapon aimed at her heart. For a few seconds, she said nothing. Then the flood began. She tried to explain, but every word stumbled over the last. It was not what it looked like, she said. They were just talking, she said. It only happened once, she said. Lies stacked on lies, built on panic and desperation. Her voice trembled, her eyes filled with tears, but they weren't the kind that come from remorse. They were from fear. Fear of losing the comfort she thought would always be there. I didn't interrupt her. I let her speak until the excuses began to repeat. My silence unnerved her more than shouting ever could. She reached for my hand, pleading, but I pulled away gently. I told her I didn't hate her, because hatred would mean she still had power over me. What I felt was worse. I felt nothing. She followed me as I walked to the door, begging me to stay, to listen, to forgive. She said she made a mistake, that it didn't mean anything. But it did. It meant everything. It meant every night I doubted myself was justified. It meant every time she said you're too jealous was her way of silencing the truth. It meant that love had turned into manipulation, and trust had turned into blindness. Before I left, I turned around and looked at her one last time. I told her something I had never said before. I said that jealousy is not always a weakness. Sometimes it is the body's way of warning the heart that danger is near. Then I walked out without another word. That week felt like living in slow motion. I packed my things quietly and stayed with a friend for a few days. She texted me constantly at first, sending long paragraphs filled with apologies and memories. I didn't reply. I didn't even open most of them. She called from unknown numbers, left voicemails crying and asking for another chance. I deleted them all. I had already spent too long giving her chances she never deserved. A few days later, I booked a solo trip to a coastal town I had always wanted to visit. It was something I had talked about doing for years, but she always said it was impractical. I went anyway. I watched the sunrise alone from a quiet beach, feeling the kind of peace that comes after a storm. I took a photo of that moment, the ocean calm and endless, the sky glowing with a color that felt like closure. I posted it online with a caption that simply read, "Sometimes jealousy isn't a flaw. It's intuition trying to save you." Hours later, I saw that she had viewed it. That night, a message came from her number. It was short. "I'm sorry." I stared at it for a moment before locking my phone and placing it face down. I didn't reply. Some apologies are just echoes of the pain they caused. As the waves rolled in and the wind brushed against my face, I realized something. The worst part of betrayal isn't the lie itself. It's how it makes you doubt your own senses, how it makes you feel crazy for noticing the truth. But once you finally see it, everything becomes clear. I watched the tide pull the footprints from the sand, erasing all traces of what was there before. I smiled to myself, took one last deep breath, and let it all go.